Mr. Chairman. Is there anybody on the panel who disagrees with the need for a more robust rail tank car than the DOT 111s? Okay, good. We start there. Now, let's talk about how quickly we can move there. Now, Mr. Thomas, I assume some of your people are looking at investments in rail cars, since most rail cars are not owned by the railroads, they're owned by investors. Is regulatory uncertainty regarding a new design holding people back from making those investments?
The problem with uncertainty is that it's very difficult to calibrate in terms of your investment model. So you don't know what it ultimately means for.
Right. So if we had a known design and a time period in which to phase it in, people could figure out how they're going to amortize that investment, what the investment is, and decide whether or not rationally to be in the tank car business or not, right? But right now, with the, what's the design going to be, that's probably causing some hesitation.
And I would also note that very often you can have, when you assume a certain degree of risk aversion among managers, that you could actually have less investment because of uncertainty than you do with a almost bad outcome with the regulatory. Okay, excellent. Mr. Hamburger,
with the rule that's proposed, we have both a mix of operations, has to do with braking and speeds and design. Now, do you think are the operations and braking issues going to raise concerns? Have they raised concerns?
Indeed, they have, Mr. DeFazio, but let me just expand, if I can, on your first question. I'm aware of the manager of at least one major tank car leasing company who has been told by her lawyers 2 years ago not to spend any money to replace the DOT 111s until there is a final rule on what is out of PHMSA. So to Mr. Thomas's point,
that's very helpful.
That lack of certainty has, in fact, reduced.
Okay, let me put it this way. Could we expedite the rulemaking if it was divided between a design criteria and an operations issues? In fact, when I've asked why are they combined, I'm basically told, well, we think we're going to have trouble with those two, so we want to move it through on the back of the tank car. Well, I want to get the tank cars in process.
If memory serves, I testified in the Senate last fall in recommending exactly that. Okay. We need certainty. We've already adopted voluntary speed limits. We've already adopted improved braking systems. So I think that what Mr. Saxton has indicated as well is we need certainty so that the new tank cars can go up.
I mean, you're never supposed to ask a question, know the answer, but Mr. Saxton, you went to Lake Megantic. Those were DOT 111s, as I understand.
Yes, sir. They were.
Do you think there would, I mean, that was a pretty high speed incident. Do you think a new tank car design would have made a difference in the destruction and the deaths?
I do believe it would have made a difference. I think there would have been fewer breaches. We put 1.6 million gallons of crude oil on the ground up there, and I think we would have put significantly less amounts of crude on the ground if we had had a more robust car.
Okay, and you used a statistic, I think you said, at 50 miles per hour. What factor of additional safety did you get out of the improved design?
7 to 8 times.
7 to 8 times. So what does that mean in terms of probability of rupture? 1/7, 1/8 probability of rupture then?
Yes, sir. That's exactly right. I definitely believe we would have put a lot fewer cars on the, we'd have breached a lot fewer cars.
Okay, great. Now, Mr. Black, I think you briefly mentioned it in your testimony. I couldn't find it in the written testimony, but an issue I have is why does it take so long to detect leaks? Because we have a number of incidents listed where pressures went down and they actually increased input because they thought maybe there was a problem other than a leak. In the case of the Enbridge in Marshall, Michigan, it was 17 hours. Another Enbridge, it was 3.5 hours. Why do we have so much trouble detecting leaks?
Well, the Marshall, Michigan incident was an exception. The leak detection system that was in operation detected the signs of the leak, but the operators did not recognize it was a leak. They thought in the NTSB investigation it was something else. So they tried to increase the pressure in a pipeline to address what they thought it was, and they magnified the cost of.
So is that operator education, operator error? Is it a problem with the detection system?
Control room training, and our industry has embarked on recommended practice for leak detection and recognition and response, learning from that incident.
Okay, thank you. My time's expired. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. DeFazio. Mr. Schuster.